Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining another masterclass. Today we are super happy because we have a very special guest. Her name is Melanie Falvey and she is the founder and owner of the Expert Channel TV, and she is also a video strategist. Thank you so much, Melanie, for being with us today. I'm really happy and grateful.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Diana, for inviting me. And I really hope we can bring value to your amazing audience.
Certainly. So before we start with this masterclass, I'd like us to discuss a little bit about why we decided to talk about this. I believe in this era, it's extremely important to be able to be on camera and to be more or less, used to it. And mostly because us as immigrants, we are like sometimes trying to get hired by or get a position in a company which is in another country. So when I touched base with you, I immediately thought that we should talk about how to create a nice interview, job interview, to show the importance of your talents and your expertise and all those assets that you can bring to the table to a new corporation. So thank you, Melanie, again, and I'll let you the stage.
Okay. Yes, well, as you say, Diana, you're so right. It's often the case that somebody with a great CV then suddenly realizes they have to do a video interview, and then everything just collapses. Like the nerves start to crop in, and whatever expertise they may have just is really suffering because they're not comfortable on video. I'm not even going to say confident, because the first step is to become comfortable. And today in the business arena, even if it's not for an interview per se, you might have presentations, you might have client calls, meetings, and everything is carried out on video. So you really need to start embracing video and learn how to communicate on video, which is very similar to offline communication, but it does have a few nuances that you have to be aware of to make the most of it. So it is a very powerful tool. It allows us to travel the world virtually, to be on interviews and to do amazing things to really advance in our careers. But we need to know how to do it properly. Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm just thinking about how important it is in this kind of interviews. We won't have the handshake. We won't have like how you sit correctly, how you arrive to the desk, how you put your hand, like all this nonverbal communication. There's a whole difference. So I'm super eager to learn more about this.
Great, so let's dive in.
Woo-hoo.
So I think it would be really interesting if we look at the main points that you need to be aware of when you are communicating on video, right? So the first thing is, whenever you get an invitation to be on a video interview, just say yes. Don't think that because it's on video you're going to be doing it wrong, or it's going to be a lot harder. Just really say yes and then prepare for it, because it is the way interviews are carried out today. So that's the first thing. And it sounds like a very logical thing to do, but I know people who have said no to many interviews just because of the fact that it was going to be a video interview. So we're living in 2020, and this is the way we do it. So the first thing you need to be aware of is how to create a setup that's going to enable you to look professional, to be comfortable, to be aware of personal space, and just make it as much as an offline interaction. So of course we know it's not going to be the same, because as you say, there's no handshake. The start of the interview might be a bit different, but you can still create this one-on-one interaction, even though it's in a virtual setting. So the first thing I like to look at when I'm working with somebody is the setup. Where do they place the camera? What camera should they use? What's more important? Do they need like really expensive equipment to do an interview. So let's just break that down, because it's really simple, but you need to know how to do it. So the best setup for your interview is something that's neutral enough, but that showcases your interests, your expertise, and that matches the level of a position you're applying to. So if you're doing your interview in a closed space, there's many options you can use. I mean, you can do it at home. You can go to a co-working space if they have like meeting rooms where, you know, you don't get all the noise and that. I would never recommend somebody go to a Starbucks or something to do an interview unless you're applying to Starbucks. Because it's just not the right setting. Everybody can create a setting at home. You really don't need that much space. You don't need a huge room to do an interview. You basically need something at the back, and that's basically it. You can sit at your desk if you have a desk, or you can create an illusion of a desk. You know, if you have a dining table, just use that and pretend it's a desk. And it's all about creating a professional look that is going to also enable the other person to maybe ask further, maybe start a conversation. There's certain pieces that can act as a conversation starter, and that's always a good, you know, icebreaker. It's the same as when you go into an interview and you might comment on somebody's shoes or bag or whatever it is. It's the same on video. So maybe just, if you look at my backdrop, and before we go on, a backdrop is simply the visual information you're sending out on a video. So my backdrop is neutral enough. I mean, I could basically be anything. I could be applying to any kind of corporate job, but there's a few books in the back that might or not resonate with the job I'm applying to. There's a conversation starter right there, that horse there. That would be a conversation starter. Not that you need to go out and buy a horse head, but you get the, you know, you get the idea. It's about creating a frame for your body. So when you're sitting in the video, you need a frame around it. So don't go too crazy unless you're going for a very creative position. Stay neutral, but showcase your best image, because it's the same as when you actually go to an interview, a physical, in real world interview. You would wear your best suit. You would clean your shoes, polish your shoes. You would, you know, do your hair to look your best. And it's no different on video. You might be wearing pajama pants, but
Yeah.
whatever you can see on the video needs to really look the part. So again, it really depends on what type of job you're applying to, what type of position, and try to match the visuals to that position. Visual information is terribly important, and on video, it's more than 50% of all the information you're going to be giving out, even if you don't realize. Yes, the other person wants to know about your expertise, your interests, your mindset, your assets, your everything. But on a subconscious level, they're also assessing the visual information you're sending out. So just be very aware of that. So try to connect to the company culture even, and I would suggest getting familiar with the company culture always before an interview. Get to know the values of that company, get to know the style. I always recommend just going around the location of that company and looking at how people dress, what's the style of the company. Every company is different because of the people who work there. They create their own style. So what is that style? And if you're able to match that in your videos, there's already going to be that subconscious information going out, so that the other person is able to imagine you working for them, because you're already looking the part. So on video, it's a lot about sending psychological cues that go unnoticed most of the time, but on the other hand, they're really, really powerful. So again, about the setup, create a frame, that speaks about your expertise, that speaks about your hobbies, your interests. And then also be very careful of where you place your camera. The biggest mistake, the number one mistake I see people making on interviews is they look down into the camera. So there's not a specific camera you need to be using. It's not about that. You could use your laptop inbuilt camera. You can use a mobile. Nowadays, mobile cameras are amazing. There's absolutely no problem in using that. But place it just slightly above eye level so that you're looking up. Never look down, because that, and that's another point we're going to be looking at, that's body language and personal space. But when you look down at somebody, you're expressing the same, I mean, it's literal, you're actually looking down at somebody. And that is never a good idea, but definitely not a good idea in a job interview. Always look at eye level. You need to look people in the eye, even if you're not actually seeing them, but you need to create that illusion that you're actually looking them in the eye, because that's going to show you're honest, you're open, you have nothing to hide. Again, it's body language. So remember, if you're using a phone, just place it slightly above eye level. Don't hold it, obviously, never hold it. If you don't have a tripod, just create a stack of books even and place your phone, and make sure you fix it, or you can use like blue tack or something like that, so that the phone doesn't move, because sometimes it can slip and that could be terrible. But just using a mobile, using your inbuilt camera on your laptop is fine. It's more about where you place it. You might want to place your computer or your laptop above, you know, on top of a box, on top of a pile of books, because usually that's the problem. When you have your laptop on the table, on the desk, and the camera is always slightly below your eye level. So that's why people tend to look down and they look over the other person. That's the impression it gives. So be very careful about that. Also think about light. Light is terribly important, and it also maximizes your body language. So we want to appear as honest as possible, as well, yeah, as honest as possible. That's the main thing. We want the other person to think that everything we're saying, everything we stated in our CVs is absolutely true. We're open, you know, we don't have anything to hide. So people need to be able to see your face, and they very specifically need to be able to see your eyes. Okay, so eyes are terribly important. Again, you don't have to go out and buy expensive lighting or anything like that. Just sit in front of the window. Never sit with the window behind you. Just always make sure the window is in front of you and you're getting the best natural light. And that actually takes me to the next point, because when and where to do your videos is very important also. So sometimes we get an appointment and that's it. We're not able to choose our best time. But other times we are. So just make sure that you're choosing a time when it's going to be quiet, wherever you're going to be doing your videos. And again, I know it sounds logical, but you cannot begin to imagine the number of interviews, of videos I've seen of people doing interviews in noisy places, or suddenly, you know, kids come back from school and, you know, you're there. It's going to add a lot of stress, I mean, for both people on the video. So don't do that. Choose your time wisely. When is it that you have the best light? When is it that it is the quietest? And that's when you should book your interview. So you can use natural light. You don't need microphones. You can just use headphones if necessary. Sometimes if you're actually in a quiet place, and if you're close enough to your phone or your device, whatever you're using, you won't even need a microphone. So the fewer things, the fewer gadgets you have on you, the better, because the fewer things can go wrong. So keep it simple. Do a few tests before. You can always record video. So just sit down, see what the backdrop looks like, move things around, move yourself around depending on the light, depending on the time of day, and then check your audio, because the other person needs to listen to you properly, obviously. Now, another point that's really important and that's really related to this is body language. So we already said that be careful, don't invade the other person's personal space. And this is something that people don't tend to realize. When we are offline, we always try to be respectful of others' personal space. And personal space varies from culture to culture, so you also need to take that into account. But I mean, we always know not to go too close, or not to, you know, we don't even have to think about that. Well, the same rules apply to video. You need to create the illusion of personal space. So again, never stand or sit too close to the camera that the other person feels intimidated, because it's exactly the same effect as if you were speaking to somebody and just really being, you know, too pushy or too close to them. So just maintain the same distance you would in a normal conversation. So by leaving a frame and by leaving about 40 to 50 centimeters from your body to the camera, that should be enough to create that personal space around you and the other person. So it shows that you know how to deal in international communication, you know how to deal with different cultures, and you know how to handle a conversation. Okay, so that's terribly important. Body language also is able to reflect your level of honesty. So as we were saying before, you want to portray your most honest side to the other person, obviously. So showing your hands, don't keep your hands on the desk all the time. Don't keep your hands hidden. You know, make sure that within the frame you have, whatever you're showing, you're also showing your hands. You don't have to go crazy with your hands, but don't go crazy with your hands, but show your hands, okay? Because that's another sign that you're a trustworthy person and that you are able to build trust with the other part, okay? Now, another point is obviously showing up confidently. You're in an interview, everybody gets nervous in an interview. I mean, absolutely everyone. No matter how many interviews you've been to, you are going to get nervous. But there's things you can do before the video interview to get you into the right mood and to relax you. And that's very, very important, because when you're nervous, your muscles start to tense and you start doing things that you don't even notice you're doing. So you might be pulling faces, you might show that you're very tense, and that doesn't show the best version of you. So you need to be able to relax and just imagine that you're having this conversation with somebody you already know, and you know the job is yours. You just need to explain it passionately and let them know that you're the best person. But if we add the nerves that happen during any offline interview, we add the video factor, it can become quite stressful. So I would suggest before a video interview, do something relaxing, something that is able to, that helps you become, you know, more relaxed. So it could be exercising, if that's what helps you. It could be dancing around to upbeat music. On the contrary, it could be meditating or listening to relaxing music, classical music. We tend to know what works for us, what uplifts us or what makes us more relaxed. So try to plan your day so that you have some minutes before the interview. If you get really nervous, plan your day so that you have a couple of hours before the interview, even, so that you can do different activities that are going to enable you to get into the right mood for your videos. There's other things you can do. Laughing really helps. It relaxes your physical muscles and it just relaxes everything. You know, it releases endorphins and dopamine, and those are neurochemicals that allow you to be more relaxed and in a good mood. So the more neurochemicals you can release, or you can increase the level of, the better you're going to be showing up on video, because it's going to be the most similar version of your offline version, so to speak. So you can actually do a few things. I mean, you can just eat some chocolate before the interview. I mean, don't overdo it, but just a piece of chocolate, that's going to release endorphins in your brain. You can even just smell something that you really, really like, something that evokes a positive memory. It could be a scent, it could be putting on perfume before your interview, it could be a room diffuser, it could be lighting a candle that has a nice scent. Anything that makes your brain to come to a positive state of mind, anything that makes your brain switch from stress to relaxation, to being in a good mood, what we usually say, to be in a good mood. Again, laughing, just watch a few YouTube videos, silly cat videos, silly dog videos, whatever works for you. That's going to help you release all that tension. And I would also suggest, don't just do that before a video. I mean, start planning beforehand. So if you know you're going to be doing an interview in 2 weeks, sometimes we don't have such a huge time span. But if you know that you're going to be doing an interview in 3 or 4 days' time, plan ahead and start a series of rituals, if you like, to learn how your body reacts to different stimulus. So try and see how your body reacts to meditating. Is that helping you, or is it making you even more nervous because you just cannot meditate? You know, not everybody can meditate. Jump around, dance around. Is that helping you get into a better mood, or are you in a bad mood because you're so out of shape that you hate jumping? You know, we're all different, and it's all about finding what works for each person. But there's definitely things you can do before a video to, you know, be in the best mood possible. Also, body language, things to avoid, I would say, like show your hands and open palms, just represent truth and honesty. But we tend to use, I mean, if you do that, it should be a natural gesture. You cannot force body language. You can, but you can always tell. And if the other person is a seasoned interviewer, they're going to notice. So things to avoid is never be in an interview with your arms crossed. I mean, that would be a huge no. Never just sit there with your arms crossed, because that just shows that you're not even interested in what they're offering. Okay. You can build rapport with the other person by mimicking their gestures without being blatantly obvious. But if the other person is sitting looking to the one side, you can mimic that same posture, and it just shows that you are resonating with what they're saying. If they are doing certain gestures like touching their glasses or putting their hair behind, you can do that. I mean, not all the time, but you can also do that so that you're mimicking their gestures, and that's also very powerful subliminal communication. They're not going to notice what's going on, but you're building that rapport that's going to help you get that job. A really important thing you need to do, and that really helps you build rapport, is looking the other person in the eye, what we were saying at the beginning. This is a huge mistake people make on camera, and it's they look into the screen, because you do that automatically. You see an image reflected on the screen and you just go there as if it were a mirror. Never look at yourself on the screen. I know it's hard at the beginning, but don't look at yourself. It's not about you looking into the screen. You need to look into the lens. So always locate the lens. Find where that little lens is, whether it's on your laptop, whether it's on your mobile phone, and even place a little sticker next to it, or stick a post-it note next to it, so that you're reminded to always look into the lens. because what that does is it it gives the other person the impression that you're actually looking them in the eye. And that's one of the basic ways that humans establish and connect to other people. We build trust, we build credibility, we connect emotionally to other people by looking in the eye. So never look down into the screen, because that, like, what that does is it seems as if you're hiding something, you're trying to hide something. It's the same offline. When somebody doesn't look you in the eye, you're thinking, what are they hiding? And some people do it without even realizing, because they're shy. Shy people tend to do that. It's very hard for a shy person to maintain eye contact. So at some point, you look down. And in the real world, let's say, that's okay, because you can tell when that's happening. You can tell whether the other person is shy or not. But in a video interview, there's limited time. You really cannot show that much. So try to just have a reminder, place a reminder to always look into the lens. That's really going to help you, and that's really going to set you apart. I mean, having the proper backdrop and looking into the lens is probably the most important thing you should be doing in an interview, because you already know what you're going to be speaking about. So those two things are really going to help you massively. Another thing that's related to visual communication is the way you look, the way you dress. So again, find out what the vibe is in that company before you even have the interview. Look at what people are wearing, what is the style. Make sure that you know the dress code. So are they more casual? Do they have a dress code that's a bit more relaxed and casual? Do they do casual Fridays? Is your interview on a Friday or not? Are they very, traditional with the pinstripe suit? You need to take all that into account, because again, the person who's going to be looking at you, it needs to imagine that you're already working there. And the more cues you give them, the better. So if you're matching the way their employees dress, you're already going to be ahead of somebody who's dressing completely out of place. So that's very important. Also, all these tips, you need to be yourself. It's not about creating this different persona and then when you go there to work, they think, we didn't hire this person. It still needs to feel true, and it is your personality shining through, even if it's on video. But taking that into account, you can do many things to maximize your strengths. So dress code, just match the vibe, match the vibe. If you already know who's going to be interviewing you, sometimes it's even possible to get to know them before, because they might have footage on LinkedIn or on Facebook. So just search, try to find out as much as you can about the interviewer and about the company you're going to work for, because that's really going to help you. Other things you need to take into account. Let's see. Okay, so one aspect of confidence, or confidence on video, is the way you move, the way you look into the lens, the way you sit. But another way of showing your confidence or not, or the lack of, is your voice, the pitch, the intonation, the volume. So make sure that before a video interview, you check your audio settings on your laptop or mobile phone, because sometimes you need to, balance that out. So test before. Do I sound very loud? So just bring the volume down. Do I sound very, the opposite? So you need to test those things so that when you're on the interview, it sounds as natural as possible. And also be careful, because usually when we're nervous, we start speaking really, really fast and we don't even notice. So record yourself before a video interview and see how you react. Try to imagine yourself in that situation, and then speak into the camera and see what you have to change or what you have to tweak. So obviously on the real interview, it's going to be slightly different because nerves are going to be different. But you will be able to, by knowing yourself better from previous recordings, you will be able to notice whether you're going too fast, and then you can slow down. Because the more relaxed you appear to be, even if you're dying inside, but the more relaxed you appear to be, the more confident, the more possibilities you have of them giving you, hiring you. So also like try to modulate the voice the right way. Sometimes when we're on job interviews, we become robots because of nerves. We do the most stupid things because of nerves, because it's unconscious. We don't even know we're doing it. So also like modulate, try to find the right pace for you, especially if you're speaking in a different language. Then you have, those added nerves that it's not your native language. So you need to practice beforehand. The best way to do it is practice beforehand, even if it's with somebody else, who's asking you stuff, and you just, communicating the best way possible. So I think out of the many things you can do, I think those would be the main points that somebody would have to take into account before attending a video interview.
I love everything that you just explained, because it's not only for those who are going into a video interview, but it's also going to be very useful to those who are going to a live interview, because as we were saying, nonverbal communication is so important, and the way that we present ourselves with the people, what you said about sitting correctly and not very near to the person, or not hiding our hands, or tics or things that we may be doing that we cannot like be conscious about them in that moment. Thank you so much. This has been extremely useful. I have a couple of questions out of this. Well, no, first of all, I just wanted to say that from all the things that you just explained, I believe having a video interview is an advantage for us. When you were talking about the backdrop, I feel like whenever we decide to put the things that, like all the communication that you're telling us to put, and when you talked about the conversation initiator with the horse, I immediately saw your backdrop, and I saw that you have a picture there. So maybe I could actually wonder if that's your family, and if that was vacation, and maybe you can tell me something about that, so that relaxes both people, because sometimes recruiters are also stressed about like trying to find the right person, and have already had like 50, 60 calls with people. So bringing all these assets to the interview and make them feel like they are actually drinking a cup of coffee or tea with you at your place, I believe that's an advantage.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's an advantage because it actually enables you to show a more personal side of yourself. And for a recruiter, that's terribly important, because it's
Yes.
something that doesn't usually happen in a real setting, real life setting. Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also, well, one of these questions that I have is, I don't know. You made me remember this interview that they were doing a couple of years ago to an expert, and it was a video interview. He was on Skype, and he was super serious talking about economy or finances. And then his son, or his children, actually there were two little babies over there, came into the room, and he was like trying to pull them out of the scene, and then the mom came and tackled them and took them out and closed the door. So things happen. How can we how do we deal with this kind of things, because this could also happen?
Oh, absolutely. And believe me, it happens a lot. And I think everybody remembers that interview. It was epic. And to be honest, he did all the wrong things.
Yeah, I believe he made it more evident.
Exactly, exactly. We need to be natural about things. I mean, yes, we need to look professional and we want it to be perfect, but life happens. The lights could go out. The dog could start barking. The kids could come running in. And mommy, mommy, I'm back from school. So many things can happen, and they actually do happen. So just be natural about it, because many times those are, you know, like the things that make you get hired or not, the way you react to those things. So be completely natural, have a laugh. A good sense of humor is going to help you immensely in any type of job interview, always. So, and as you were saying, recruiters are so overwhelmed sometimes, especially if they're working for big companies, where they have to assess so many candidates, that if you give them something different, something fresh, just by doing that, you're going to be able to become like stand out. You're going to stand out because it's something different. So again, you said like having something a bit more personal, a photo of the family or something related to your hobbies, that could start a conversation, and that recruiter would remember you out of the hundreds of CVs they're looking at every single day. If something happens, that's fine. If they start drilling the walls next to your home, you just say it, or you can even say it in advance, like, listen, I'm terribly sorry. They're doing some roadworks on the street. There might be noise. Is that okay? And that's fine. It's fine. Now, what I wouldn't do is, if the doorbell rings, don't go and answer it. If the phone rings, don't answer it. But anything else that's unexpected, just go with it. You know, it's life. Nobody's going to feel awkward, you know, or think they're not going to hire you because something happened. And if they do, it's just not the right place for you to work in. So that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, don't answer the door if you don't have a dog, otherwise he's going to be barking all day long.
Good
Like if
point.
I was,
Good
yeah, if
point.
I was in a job interview and the door is ringing, I would definitely have to stop that conversation. So coming back to that, should I, for example, excuse myself and say, well, it's because I have to go, my dog's going to become crazy if I don't hold him, or and just
Absolutely. Be natural. Just, I mean, what you have to think is that you're speaking to another human being. Even though, I mean, yes, they're in charge, they have the power in that moment, but they're just human. And the same things happen to them as happen to you. So it's about, you know, making things more natural. I know it's easy to say when you're not in a real interview environment, but really it just become more natural. I've helped many interviewers and employees with interviews. So I've actually run workshops in companies so that people got used to a video communication, because as you said, nowadays everything is on video. Meetings are on video, presentations are on video, calls are always video calls, almost always. And people of a certain age had a real problem with that, and they have a real problem with that. So what I do is, when I do the workshops with them, we create this, you know, real environment. So we role play a lot. And it's funny because the minute they know they're on video, they just, people become tense, really tense, and their whole personality changes. So it's all about thinking, no, this is a real life conversation. This is a real life situation. It just happens to be with a screen in between us, but I'm going to be as natural as possible. And you have to be as natural as possible, because in the end, if you end up working for them, they're going to meet the real person. You cannot be two different people. So just be as natural as you can. And oftentimes becoming natural on video requires you to practice. So the more you practice, the more natural you can become, because the more you practice, the less nervous you feel, so that when you're actually on video, it's the real you, as when you're, you know, out in a just regular situation. So
another question that I have is, when do we know that it's enough information on our backdrop? Let's say that I want to apply for Warner Brothers. So I have a lot of little things from Warner Brothers. So I want to put them all over there. And then I have also films from Warner Brothers. Should I put all my collection over there? How conservative should I be, or how open should I be on the message that I want to bring them, telling them that I really want to work with them?
That's a great question. That's a great question. So it really depends on the type of post you're applying to. So you need to know your audience. What is the company like, and what is the type of work that you're going to be carrying out for them? So the more creative the post, the more crazy you can go. Let's put it this way. And the more conservative the role, well, then the more conservative the backdrop. I would only go crazy and really do something absolutely astonishingly creative if I'm applying to something really, really creative, because that's going to be part of what they're assessing.
Yeah,
If
designers.
not, exactly, designers, anyone in advertising, graphic designers, anyone in the movie industry, designers of any kind, then yeah, go crazy, show your best work. Because actually, when you're a creative, your backdrop needs to show your work. It has to be a display of your art, whatever that is, whatever field of design. However, if you're, you know, applying to a different type of position, keep it neutral. I mean, you can use like 2 or 3 types of props. Props are simply accessories. So think of props as books, candles, pictures. Don't go too crazy, because the thing is, you need to show an image that communicates you're in control, you're in charge, you know what you're doing, you are seamless in what you do, you're organized. Even if you're not, you need to show that. So your backdrop needs to reflect that. So don't go too crazy that it looks messy. You can, there's a danger with backdrops, and it's if you make them too fussy, they become messy because it's just too much information. And when it comes to design, you need to allow for empty space. Empty space is just blank space, because the other person listening to you and watching you needs to be able to have that empty space to be able to process the information that's really important. And the information that's really important, the focal information in an interview, is your message, what you're saying, and your image. The backdrop is there to support you, but not to be overpowering. So empty space is necessary. Don't fill in every single, you know, corner. Just be quite, I would say, be rather conservative, as opposed to creating this magical display of light and sound if you're not going for a creative post.
Perfect. Yeah. Otherwise, it becomes a distraction.
Exactly.
Another little question, and that will be it, is about technicalities. Let's say, as well as when we, like the door rang, my dog went crazy, I had to stop the conversation, I had to run, take my dog, blah. When it comes to technicality, sometimes it's just not working, the sound or the camera or connection, and the call drops and you have to connect again and again, and doesn't happen very well. The two of you are already stressed. How do we deal with that? Should we actually suggest another call sometime, or should we continue trying?
Okay, well, actually, that's a good point. There's 2 ways around it. You can try, but you can only try so many times. Sometimes it's better to just postpone. I would say try once. If you keep having problems, and the thing is, nobody's going to be annoyed because tech is not working, because it's out of our control. so people are never annoyed when that happens. They're really usually very understanding. So try it once. If you really can't get it to work, it's always better to postpone, because if not, you're going to become so stressed, so nervous, that in the end it's going to harm your interview. And everybody understands tech goes wrong, and it always goes wrong in the precise moment you need it. So you just can't help it. But it's okay, it's fine, it happens. Just postpone the call and that's it.
Perfect. When you were talking about sound and image, etc., I just thought that maybe we could be just at the beginning of the conversation of the interview, we could just ask our recruiter to tell us if they can see and listen to us correctly, so we can make sure that even if we are speaking out loud, maybe they are like in the minimum volume, so they cannot listen to us. So at least
Yes,
it's not going to be on our side, right?
absolutely, yes. Double checking is good. It shows a side of your personality that might be useful for them to see. So it is a personality trait. So yeah, that's fine. Making sure that everything is working, it just shows that you're serious about it and you want to do it well. So it's, yeah, that's a good thing.
Melanie, it
Speaking
has
about
been, yeah,
technicality,
I know, look at this. And so I'm going to leave this so you see that it happens all the time and everything is okay. What I was saying is this conversation has been a real pleasure, Melanie. I learned a lot and everything makes so much sense. I really appreciate that you said yes to this collaboration. I'm thankful that you are part of our board of experts now. And I know that this is not going to be the last time that we have all your knowledge and expertise at the member zone. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And I know that this is going to be very useful to all our community.
oh, thank you so much. It's an honor, a real honor. And I really hope it's useful.
It surely is. So thank you very much, guys, and see you the next time. Thank you.